Hello, my friends. Dr. Gabe Roberts, the Subconscious Healer, here today with another video on breaking free from chronic pain. Today's topic, I want to address 5 myths regarding chronic pain. And these are myths that have been around for a long time. They're circulated throughout professionals and doctors, and these have been completely debunked. These are absolutely not accurate, but it's still circulated, and as a result of that, people will still believe it. And whenever they believe it, it's really going to that's really going to be the main controller. I don't want to say the main controller, a significant controller of if recovery is even possible for them. So my job is here to help you, give you the facts, give you what give you the real solution, the real evidence on what's going on with chronic pain. And then the biggest driver of determining if you're going to recover or not is ultimately your decision. It has to be your decision for you. It's a decision you have to make, and commit to that decision. And many times people are limited by their ability to make a decision because they're confused. So I want to give some clarity in this. So today's topic, 5 myths of chronic pain. Before we do this, let's take a moment to give ourselves a signal of safety. We're out here in nature, beautiful trees. Go ahead, and I'd like to invite you to participate with me and just doing a heart brain coherence exercise. We'll put our attention right on our heart space. I like to take 3 slow, deep breaths, exhaling longer for what we inhale for. Follow that with a feeling of gratitude. Think about a time in your life when you really felt grateful for something, and just allow yourself to participate in that moment, bringing all those feelings back. Those 3 very, very simple steps given to us from HeartMath Institute, very powerful technology to signal safety within our brain and our nervous system. And whenever our brain and our nervous system feel safe, our body's physiology follows right along. So 5 myths regarding chronic pain. The first one I want to address is that chronic pain is permanent. Chronic pain is forever. Chronic pain doesn't have a cure. Chronic pain is just one of those things that you'll have to live with, and you'll have to learn to manage, and it'll always be part of your life, and people don't heal from it. Now, I'm saying all these statements because these are things that I've heard my patients through the years tell me, even though they were actually able to heal. Now, they were able to heal because they decided. And when they decided, they took the appropriate steps. They began to gain clarity on actually what was going on, and they realized that it wasn't something going on with their body, that it was their brain, and they've actually healed. Now, I've witnessed that in clinical practice. I also know of other professionals that are getting the same kind of results, coaches that are getting the same kind of results. Very small groups, but still growing significantly because they understand that it is a myth that chronic pain is permanent and there's no cure for it. Let's address that. Let's wipe it out. I've talked in previous videos about understanding what chronic pain is, and how do we know? By looking at the brain, we can determine, with functional MRI, we can determine who has a significant chance of having chronic pain, up to 90%, who is going to have chronic pain and who's not, just by looking at the brain and not even looking at the body. not even looking at the bone spurs and the arthritis and the DJD and the spondylolisthesis and all this other stuff that we are constantly basing our diagnosis off of, which is inaccurate, by the way. So chronic pain is absolutely curable, but it's curable in the ones that make a decision, and it's curable in the ones that change their approach, change their awareness, and start to develop the kinds of state of mind that's necessary for healing to take place. Okay, so that's number one. The next myth I want to address is old injuries hurt. Not true. Old injuries hurt. Now, what I mean by old injuries is something that has happened anywhere from 3 to 6 months ago. Okay, so if you had an injury that was 6 months ago, and like you sprained your ankle, or you injured your leg, or you injured your shoulder doing something. You fell, maybe you lifted something heavy, and you felt like a pop or something give in your back. You felt something actually change. You can actually injure yourself doing those things, and then you go see a physical therapist or a chiropractor or a pain specialist, and they work with you and they do some therapies. After 6 months' time, whatever tissue was damaged in that injury has fully healed. So the body only knows how to heal, just like a scraped knee knows how to heal. Whenever a person has a cold and they have congestion in their lungs, after a while it heals, right? It's meant to heal. The body only knows how to heal. So chronic injuries no longer hurt. But if the pain is still there, it's because the person was afraid. They were worried. They had fear, they had doubts, they had anxieties, or they had other stressors actually taking place in their life at the moment of injury. And so what happens is, when they have a lot of stress going on, their brain is hypersensitive. The biochemistry within their body is designed to make them fine-tune their focus. And this makes the nervous system hypersensitive. And now you add an injury to that, and now what happens is the brain actually wires all that information together through neuroplasticity of the injury and all the stress and all the other things happening. So now what happens is the brain inadvertently learns to keep the pain on long after the injury is healed. And this is the case in a majority of cases of chronic pain. It's not a problem with the actual body part of the shoulder or the back or the hip. It's a problem with the brain. And like I said, the evidence points this out, okay? That's that's the myth of chronic pain number 2. The myth of chronic pain number 3 is that chronic pain always means physical damage. Well, I just described an injury, right? Chronic pain does not mean physical injury or it's ongoing or something like that. What it means is that there's the communication between the brain and the body. There's a miscommunication, rather. How many times have you ever had a conversation with someone and what you were saying to them or what they were saying to you was misinterpreted, and it meant the meaning was completely off of what the person was intending to get across when they were conversing with you, right? So in conversations with people, confusion can happen, especially through texts, right? Well, your brain and your body communicates through the nervous system and the nervous tracts and electrical synapses through these long nerve endings that just go throughout our body. That's how communication happens. Well, there can be misunderstandings in that communication as well. The injury may have healed, but if the pain in the spot still hurts, it's no longer highly significant chance, no longer an issue with the part of the body. It's an issue with the brain not getting the memo to turn the alarm off, okay? And so what's the solution? Simply addressing the brain and not the body. And many of you may even know what I'm talking about if you have chronic pain in a back or neck or something like that, and you're going to a chiropractor or an orthopedic practitioner and you're getting cortisone shots trying to manage that pain. You both of those scenarios, you know that they're only temporary, right? You get adjusted from a chiropractor, feels so nice. You get home, pain comes right back, right? It's not an issue with the body. It's not physical damage. It's the brain. I learned this many years ago as a best practitioner, because as a best practitioner, as a chiropractor, I didn't manually manipulate the spine or the neck or any of that other stuff. What I did was I tapped into the brain centers and allowed the brain to make the correction necessary, okay? And I found that even that, to an extent, was not addressing the problem, because the person could still have feelings and emotions and focusing on things that give the brain perception of danger, okay? Any kind of loss of control, any kind of lack of information or uncertainty, or internal conflicts, these are things from the literature that make the brain perceive danger, okay? That really stress the brain out. They make the amygdala fire, and those are the things that make the symptoms stay around. So in essence, I wasn't really helping people until I was giving them directions on how to use their brain and their focus of where they're putting their attention on in a more helpful way, conveying messages of safety to the brain rather than possibilities of danger, okay? So the next myth we'll cover, this is number 4, okay? That pain is a purely physical thing. So physical pain in your body is purely physical. That's a myth. One of the things that we've been told, one of the biggest ongoing lies today, is that emotions and thoughts and things like that don't really impact the body. And this was, it's such a prevalent lie and inaccurate statement that it still resides in people's deep belief systems today. They honestly don't think that their thoughts or their emotions impact their health or even their life in ways. And what this has done has been disastrous. Emotions and thoughts have a direct impact on your physiology. Even the whole foundation of psychology is based on, you can't even move your finger without having a thought. You can't move your finger without first having a thought. So if psychology is based on that foundation, the idea that chronic pain could in part be caused by thoughts or repressed emotions or avoidance, okay? We didn't put the two together, okay? How can we go about thinking that that's a lie, thinking that thoughts and emotions don't have anything to do with chronic pain, and yet we're sitting here and on the basis of psychology saying, well, you can't even move your finger without first having a thought. So I always talk about the brain perceiving danger as being one of the biggest culprits that causes pain, but another significant driver is the avoidance of things and emotional suppression, not allowing yourself to express certain emotions. Fear, anger, sadness, these are things that the brain can, through childhood years, learn are actually dangerous. So your brain can link emotions as being dangerous. And when that happens, your brain is naturally going to divert your attention by creating a symptom anytime that emotion could possibly come up. Anytime you have a life experience where that emotion is warranted. So thoughts and emotions, repressed emotions, can absolutely cause tremendous pain and suffering in people. I witnessed in my live event, that was last year, a woman had severe pain in her foot, and I said, what emotion comes up when you think of that pain? First impression, what emotion comes up? And it was fear, and it was anger. And as I kind of talked her into allowing herself to feel those emotions and let them just pass through the body like a wave, that's all that happened. She allowed herself to feel safe enough to express that emotion. It passed through like a wave, and once that went through, her foot pain disappeared and has never come back. Another woman in our Breaking Free group had neuropathy, a diagnosis of neuropathy, right? Since I think it was 2009, okay? That's over 6 months ago, right? 2025 today, that was 2009. We simply addressed a repressed emotion with that, and her neuropathy disappeared, and She's in our Breaking Free group. She'd be happy to tell you this, that the pain has never come back. So repressed emotions and destructive thoughts can absolutely wreak havoc, not only in our mind, but our physiology will follow that, okay? On the reverse notion, when a brain feels safe, and when our brain feels safe expressing all ranges of emotions, the body follows that, and the physiology actually becomes very balanced and orderly. So the last myth, this is number 5, myths of chronic pain, that if pain is actually coming from the brain, that it's not even really pain at all, okay? It's not real, right? I don't mean to say anything like the pain is in your head. That's a very disempowering statement that has been used detrimentally to people, making them think that they're crazy, making them think that there's no hope, making them think that there's really something wrong with them. There's basically no sensation that you can experience in your body without your brain. You wouldn't even know what pain is without the brain, right? You wouldn't have any idea what physical pain is without your brain interpreting it, okay? And that's what your brain does. Whenever we have an injury, let's say, it's not the injury that's causing the pain. It's not the injury causing the pain. It's a signal from wherever that injury is in the body going to the brain, and the brain making the decision to turn on the pain or not turn on the pain based on what the brain is interpreting. So all sensations come from the brain. All pain comes from the brain. And when we understand this, it makes it much more clear and simplified where we can target our treatments for reversing those symptoms that are no longer necessary. So again, the 5 myths of chronic pain, and I'll go through these again. I actually wrote them down on this little piece of paper here, is that chronic pain is permanent, can't heal. That's a lie. That old injuries hurt. Old injuries do not hurt. Old injuries heal if they still hurt. And yes, I understand you may have been told it's scar tissue or it's this or it's that, but understand that old injuries heal. Old injuries, and even when someone tells you scar tissue is what's causing the pain, scar tissue has no feeling to it, right? So it's not that. It's the brain has never learned to actually turn the pain off. Chronic pain means ongoing physical damage. That's a lie, okay? Pain is purely physical, not emotional, not affected by thoughts or trauma or any of this other stuff. That's completely a lie. And if pain is from the brain, it's not real. Well, all sensations come from the brain. So the brain can absolutely keep pain on as a warning signal to protect you. And it can keep pain on if the brain perceives danger or there's emotions that are not expressed, okay? And that's it. Hopefully sit well with you. I am thankful to have you here with me today going through this, and I'm looking forward to seeing you tomorrow with another message of how to break free from chronic pain. Enjoy your day, my friends.